It's been almost 5 years since FF was last updated. Yeah, you know about that. Sorry to remember. But something you may not know is that it took less than 2 years since the release of FF to the last update. And although looking at it now, 2 years sound like a short time, a lot was done to this beautiful game during that period. In this video, I wanna rewind those 2 years, to cover every update the game has had so far, everything new that was added and all the changes. And no, you can't believe a lot has changed, although some things are still the same. From their release at July 16th, 2017 to April 19th, 2019, Fantastic Frontier had 5 major updates, 6 if you count the release itself, which is from where we're gonna start, of course. What a time to be alive. 2017 really doesn't sound like it was almost 7 years ago. Although I already played Roblox at the time, I would mostly stick to shooters and tycoons. So I didn't know FF at the time, which means my sources for this are gonna be the wiki, the Discord, and the YouTube videos.
Oh, wow! It's embarrassing! No!
Everything starts when two brothers, one who had already been messing with Roblox Studio for some years, and other who God knows anything about, started working on a passion project, an adventure game in a fantasy world, and on Roblox out of all the possible platforms, which would end up being both their best and worst decision. After around 10 months of work, Fantastic Frontier was released to the public. It was originally advertised to the Roblox webpage and Reddit post with a trailer for the game. Looking at gameplay footage, it doesn't feel a lot different from the current game. And indeed, most of the mechanics like PvP and movement have barely changed. But there are a lot of interesting things we can find out. For the first week of the public release, the base HP was 100 instead of 200, so you can imagine how much people died in their first encounters with monsters. Along with that, you would not only lose every single item on death, which included bullets at the time, but you would also lose some cash when you died. Not only that, but some weapons were significantly weaker than now, and the armor options were very limited back then. So it's very noticeable that the game was a lot harder when it first came out, especially since there was no wiki or anyone to teach you how to play. Everything was new. There was this whole new world to explore with all those creatures, plants, birds, fishes, and nobody had a clue how to get anything. It definitely was an amazing experience to play a game that just came out, so the community helps each other to figure out everything. My favorite part has to be the evolution of the game map, how people gradually managed to figure out the places and make a full map in like 2 days. Remember, there are no glitches to remove the fog at the time, so the map felt a lot bigger and more mysterious. Even though the game had a lot of content, it sorta lacked the main goal. There are no clear objectives, and the closest thing to a boss at the time was the magma brain. That honestly, if you have a ranged weapon, is the most trivial thing ever. There was no rabbit hole, no tower, no automata, no nightmare, not even strange man. It was literally just a frontier. Heck, the rarest item in the game at the time was Frontier Stone. Frontier Stone! You could argue that the main goal of the game was getting the top hat, which yeah, I agree, but that wasn't really clear. People don't even know what the reward for completing all White Impetus was until Philip got it more than a month after the game was released. Shout out to Philip. Anyway, the game had quite a lot of issues when it first released. For the first week, it had pretty much daily updates to fix bugs and balance items, as well as refunding players that lost stuff due to glitches. Yeah, that was a pretty busy week for the brothers. But hey, the game was a big success. Guess what should you do next? A big update. You think people nowadays are overdramatic because we haven't had an update in almost 5 years? That's because you didn't see the community back in 2017, when they had to wait mere 6 months for a content update. And surprisingly enough, 1 month without an update was enough for the game to have as much players as it has now. Like what? Were we that impatient 6 years ago? I guess the game just didn't have much to do, but hold on, because now it most certainly has. It's February 2018, and after a few teasers, the long-awaited update is finally here, and no damn was the wait worth it. Now we have vanity slots, 4 new traveling shopkeepers that sell new items, including 18 new armor sets and 60 weapons, as well as a lot of gimmicky standalone items. Now there are fireflies which you can gather and trade for a rare item, presents that will spawn randomly around the map and finding one is the best feeling ever, tons of new monsters that are gonna scare the hell out of you, Frontier Stone is no longer the rarest item in the game, thank god. The new most expensive collectible is way too easy to get, but nobody figures it out, and oh, did I mention there is now a huge dungeon with 50 floors, each with different monsters? A lot of which you've never seen before and are probably gonna KO you when you try again and lose all your items, except no, because you can just rejoin and not lose any lives. Thank god they never fixed this. You have the coolest and most creative boss design ever, that takes effort to master and is fun to fight. Now there is music composed by the devs. You can forget about this part. Well, if there's anything that keeps me motivated to wait for the current update, it's seeing this experience. Think that this took like 6 months to be finished. Imagine how much they can add to a game in 5 years. Holy cow, I even forgot I was in 2018. And it was around that time, most precisely February 17th, that I was searching for new games to play on Roblox with a friend of mine. And he sent me this one called Fantastic Frontier. Damn, how I wish I could go back to that day. I remember the experience of figuring everything out, getting scared at every creature that appeared, dying multiple times, making money from mining at Greenhorn Grove. Those times are the best. Memories aside, this update was well received by the community, and made the game have another boom in popularity. Granted, there were a few bugs, mostly related to Tower, but as usual, the devs took their time to fix them, and nonetheless it was an amazing experience to discover newly added stuff in the first big update. Damn, I wonder how long it will take for another one to come. Wait, just 1 month? Those were undoubtedly different times. Only a month after the Otherworld update, we got the fishing update. Sure, it was considerably smaller, but its newest addition was probably the most impactful to the game's history. And no, I'm not talking about the rabbit hole, treasure chest, or slayer tasks. I'm talking about this. Yeah, it was that simple to do the no fog glitch. You just had to hit the newly added home button while in the rabbit hole or strange one's domain and boom! The map looks 10 times smaller and everything is easier to find. That completely changed how this game looked to me at the time. Although it probably helped me memorize the map a lot quicker, it never felt quite the same. Before, the map felt way bigger and eerier. You never knew what was behind the fog. But now it's sorta lost its magic to a point I almost regret using it all these years. Who cares? 3 top hats, baby! Too bad they took more than a year to patch it, and 5 years after new methods were discovered, they were also never patched. Bada bing, bada beeper, no fog is now a feature. Anyway, talking about the update itself, it was smaller, but it was actually a pretty good update. Most notable content were those already mentioned. The rabbit hole, which changes its location every night and only appears at the top of the map for whatever reason. During daytime you can fish there, mostly for treasures, since timed fish was supposed to be obtainable there, but Spectre did an oopsie, and it was never fixed. And at nighttime this thing would appear and probably one hit KO you before you could do anything at that time. I always loved the concept of the parasite. Although it can't move, it's probably the hardest boss in the game, as you can't really cheese it. The rabbit hole as a whole is a cool concept. A place you have to first find and then use it to make money or find new Tempira items, and you can choose to take the risk of staying there at night to get some good drops. Other notable additions were the treasure chests, that added an extra reason for you to fish. The slayer tasks, which were a good thing to do if you feel like playing the game but are not sure what to do, since the journey to find the items you need often leads to a rare monster, a present, or anything that may interest you. The home button, which was impactful not only because it created a no fog glitch, but was also a great quality of life addition. A buy X item button, so you now didn't have to spam click when buying bullets, which by the way got the price reduced. 6 new armor sets, which yeah, that was definitely an impactful change to the game. 18 new fish, making it hella painful for completionists, as before this update the rarest fish in the game was the king of the sea. Man, how I wish it still was. Fishing improvements such as updated animations and the new fishing rod, and the best thing that was ever added to the game, item feed updated notification sound. Unironically, hearing this sound makes it all worth it. When you realize how many things were added, it doesn't even look like a small update, especially since it only took 1 month to be made. But in terms of newly added content, it didn't take long to kill the parasite and get the new chests, which for casual players was pretty much everything to do. So now it was a matter of waiting for the next update. If 6 months were worth the wait for the Otherworld update, I suppose the community wasn't so nervous about having to wait another 7 months. And my god, was it worth it. When you first opened the game on October 19th, 2018, you would see a couple of doors in front of Temple Town. Oh yeah, that was quickly fixed. Yo, the Temple Farm now became a market, with tons of new houses that you can't enter at all. But hey, this guy's selling seeds, we can plant them here. So that was the gardening update we were waiting for. I wonder what else this update has to offer.
What the hell? Oh my god, no way, yeah.
If I really wanted to talk about my opinion on the Nightmare update, I could spend half an hour only talking about how it's the best update any game has ever had in the history of gaming and everything about it is amazing. But for the purpose of this video, I will focus on talking about the new things that were added. And oh, that is a big list. First of all, when you talk to this giant rat boy that supposedly fell from the sky, you are teleported to his nightmare, where you are received by old Teen Toy, who tells you he lost his friend and wants you to find him, and that this is the most important thing ever. Okay, interesting. Let's progress further. What the hell is this? This dimension has the deli, which is a restaurant that you can play an AFK minigame, where you basically wait, and if you're really lucky you can get some cool stuff, but most of the time just some crappy consumables. By exploring a bit more, you can press E on this bookshelf to find a hidden room with an orange button. By pressing it, you open a door near the entrance, which leads you to an abandoned library, where you find the Itempedia of Nightmare, as well as 2 doors that will open according to how much percent of the Itempedia you have completed. Not only at this room, but in this entire dimension you'll find a lot of these red tokens. We'll come back to them later. Moving further, you'll find the Gargoyle, who's the most useless NPC ever. Gargoyle sucks. And then as you go up the stairs, things get real. It's a bit hard to cover the new things from this update without basically going deep in this lore and describing what you have to do in which order. A lot of you already know that, and the ones who don't are probably gonna have a better time figuring out on their own, so I'll just describe everything from the update log to make things easier. Ratboy must have been through some real shit lately, because his nightmare is psychedelic AF. You can find a mansion, a grand hall, a theater, a supermarket, an entire road that takes around half an hour for a player to get to the end. Who thought this was a good idea and why you don't dislike it? There are a lot of different rooms around this place, some with unique gimmicks like damaging you or slowing you down over time, some are pure chaos, and some provide you a place to relax for some time and forget all the craziness. This dimension is so well designed, it really feels like a nightmare, going to places that make no sense, feeling constantly threatened, knowing that turning into a corner can mean instant death. The feeling of exploring this place for the first time was one of my favorite memories in any video game. Sorry, I told I wasn't going emotional, but I just can't, this update is incredible! I can never forgive the devs for scamming me in the first day of the update. When I first found Green Golem, I bought a purple salamander egg and it later hatched into a normal salamander, but only now rewatching this footage I realized I got scammed. I think Spectra should refund me by giving me contributor's cap, just saying. I talked about the locations already, but one thing that makes this update so special are the monsters. Some of these have the coolest design ever, and they all feel unique and special. Even the boomers and spikers, as much as I hate them, at least they have a cool sound effect. Fantastic Frontier Fun Fact of the Day! Did you know that the boomer sound effect is actually the blip sound you hear when pressing A at menus in GBA Pokemon games? But slow down, because I bet you did it. Every day you learn something new. Nightmare is so good that it's a part of the game with the most forgettable features. I bet it has been some good years since you last thought about the Racing Clown. It's so forgettable that it's not even listed in the update log. But you know who is not forgettable? Manager Supreme. Oh, remember the red tokens I mentioned previously? There are 780 of them around this dimension, and you have to gather all of them in order to open the vault guarded by the giant rat folk. But not only that, you also need to find the dark and light orb, one of which is guarded by the journeyman. Remember him? Somehow he got lost at a Neri maze located at the end of the road. Yeah, that road that took half an hour to get to the end and you could easily be killed by a boomer in the way without even noticing where it was and have to start all over again from the beginning. And the other orb? Well, along this road there is a chance for the Democan to spawn, which is this thing I'm not even gonna try to describe. It has 75,000 HP and a chance of 24% to drop the hidden key, which you then use to open this door at the Grand Hall where you have to defeat this super annoying mini-boss to drop the damn orb. Hell, that takes some effort. And now you have both the orbs, but wait, I've been everywhere. Where are the rest of the tokens? Remember the gardening feature? Yeah, there are 8 different types of seed. Most you can buy from that one guy in the market, but there is one which the only ways to get are at a 1% chance from 2 very specific monsters that have no consistent spawn around the map. So it can take either 2 minutes or 10 hours just to get this one specific seed, and after you planted all of them, you can access the maze of the root, where the rest of the tokens are located. As well as this bird who is very common around here, and sells an item that...
What the hell?
Oh wait, that was a typo. Oopsie. After getting to the end of the maze, which you either watched a tutorial or got completely nuts in the process, you get the spellbook that is not even that special since you can just buy it. But it's for free, so thank you Spectra. Now you got all the tokens available, so you can go through the vault and finally see what's on the other side. But wait, we also got this Ratboy buddy, which means the item pit of Nightmare is complete. Let's go see what the reward for this exhausting task is. It's just a reskin of another set with awful stats and you can actually sell it, so if you lose it you'll never get it back. Kinda awful, but I'll let it pass. Now let's see what's behind the vault. Wait, locked by time? I guess we have to wait to see what's the true ending of the Rat Boy's nightmare. I know I could have covered a lot more things from the Nightmare update, but it's just too many, so let's make things a bit quicker from now on. After the Nightmare, we got two small updates, one that added the crown as a rare daily exclusive collectible, and another that added first person mode, the Guttermouth armor, and the Halloween event, which is just this guy that appears at Temple Market and gives you a jack-o'-lantern. That would become a recurrent character every year from then on. Now for the actual next big update, remember the door that was locked by time? It's January 18th, 2019 and it's now open, let's check what's inside! Oh, I forgot I had already showed it. That basically sums up this update. I don't even know if you can consider it a big update, since it was pretty much just a completement of the Nightmare. It didn't even have a dedicated post in the dev forum, so I'm gonna do it for you. Added 5 new armor sets that are just reskins of each other and are never gonna use any of them. Added 2 new blades, one that is awful and another that is too OP but will be nerfed in 1 year. The handgun, which is worse than the star gun and I don't care about your opinion. 5 different frog costumes, which are probably the coolest addition in this update. And the Nightmare Dungeon, composed of 3 different phases that sometimes take way too long to finish. I have no clue how the timers for these work. And the Circus phase, that's the final boss of the Nightmare, which has a cool design, the music that plays in the battle is amazing, but after you've fought it enough times, it gets pretty boring, and it's easy to cheese if you have more than one player. And the worst part honestly is dealing with the drops. I hate when I get these. It was a decent update, but probably the least interesting we've had so far. A lot of people liked it, but I'm personally not a fan of the circus fight, so that's probably my personal bias. Yeah, looking at my script now, 2 months after I originally wrote it, that was definitely my personal bias. This update was in fact a letdown in some points, but I made it seem like it was much worse. And looking at it now, I believe my opinion is just because it has been so long that doing the Nightmare Dungeon feels like a repetitive cycle. But now remembering about when it was first released, fighting it for the first time was very intense, as we knew nothing about how it worked. Seeing the circus cutscene in the game gave me chills, honestly. I remember me and my friends thinking we glitched the game, when we skipped straight to the circus phase, because we had a Nightmare watch but had no idea it has this function.
Desespero que ela já era. Gente, eu tô... Que?
Hã?
Que?
Hã?
Que? A gente bugou.
Whoa!
What is going on?
Looking back at it, I would easily take more smaller updates. But still, the Spectral Vanguard sets are awful. Anyway, we're getting closer to April, which means that the Egg Hunt is coming. And this year, for the first time, it's gonna be held in multiple Roblox games, instead of just a single one. And Fantastic Frontier was chosen as one of the games to participate. And at the same time, the devs want to release a big update to come along with the event. And they only have 3 months to do it all. What could go wrong? Honestly, considering the time they had to make this update along with the Egg Hunt event, I think it came out pretty good. Every update we've seen so far had a considerable amount of bugs and glitches when they were first released, some of which are never fixed. And this actually didn't have that many, at least not super concerning ones. Anyways, I was hating on the Circus update for not having a dedicated dev forum post, but apparently this one didn't have one either. I'm hoping that they do an update log for the upcoming update, even though it's gonna be longer than this video script. About the update, there was the Easter event part. Kinda lame, but it was just for the Egg Hunt anyway. It would come back every Easter since then. Regarding the actual update, known as the Spring Update or Island Update, it brought to the game the island of Matamada, which according to the game lore has drifted near the frontier. I'm not really sure how this is possible, but why would I ever question the logic in a fantasy game? This island is inhabited by tons of monsters, and my god, this place has to be abandoned by God, because they made the most annoying creatures possible to put in this place. Although they spawn a lot, actually not much monsters were added. Only 6, being them the Red Man, the Crimson Ant, the Green Pirate, the Plasma and Cosmic Ghosts, and the First Knight. Probably the most surprising thing about this update is that it was the only update so far that has updated all 4 item periods, excluding the Nightmare one of course. In total, 5 fishes, 11 Harvestables, 6 monster drops, as well as 3 feathers and 12 of the new bird eggs were added. Most are commonly found around the island, and a few are really painful to get. Other stuff added includes 6 brand new armor sets, along with 7 standalone armor pieces, 2 variations of ghost masks and 2 clothing garments, as well as 4 new weapons. Also there is a giant toad, who gives tasks like Slayer, but dedicated to items found in the island. And the Construct, who's a traveling shopkeeper that sells the gear I mentioned previously. To get to this island, you need to buy the newly added boat house, located at the Long Coast. There you could take a boat to Matamata, where you could also find the new home, which is the Ice Spire. That despite being the coolest house in the game, it's probably the one I visit the last since it's too far away from anything else. The island is cool and has a lot of items and creatures, but the main thing I dislike about it is how most of it is pretty empty. so realistically you wouldn't have much reason to explore it, as most stuff is concentrated around the same area. And since the no-fog glitch never got patched, the island looked pretty small. You can see the entire thing from the big tree. I'm a big fan of the idea of adding a new island to explore, and yeah, I have to admit that taking a first look into it with the fog on, it did in fact look much bigger. But still, there is this huge flat area that besides the cosmic ghost possibly spawning, nothing else happens here at all. Aside from that, I don't have many complaints about the island. The actual controversy in the update had nothing to do with this. It was actually the balance changes they made, mostly the endurance and regen nerfs. The endurance change was as straightforward as a nerf can get. All items' endurance bonus values were reduced by approximately 30%. If you don't know how the endurance stat works, it reduces the amount of stamina consumed by every action that consumes stamina. Mostly weapon attacks for that matter, since stamina doesn't really affect fishing, despite the fact this action consumes it. So if a rifle shot consumes 5 stamina points, and you have a 20% endurance bonus, it will now consume 4 instead. That's how it works. What happened is that now, every equipment that provided an endurance bonus was directly nerfed. For example, the Tough Green Ring used to provide 10% endurance, but now it provides 7. So let's say you had an endgame ranger set consisting of full Forgotten Life set, Otherworld boots, and Tough Green Ring. Before the nerf, that would provide a 63% endurance bonus. After the update, that became 43.5%. That difference was instantly noticed, and it in fact bothered a lot of players at first. But looking at it now, at least speaking for myself, I got used to it, and understood that it was a somewhat necessary change, because range was simply too overpowered, even more than it is now. This change was huge, but it was the HP regen nerf that annoyed most people. Before this update, the HP regeneration stat was based off percentage of your max health. So let's say you have a vital pendant equipped, and it provides plus 1 HP regen. That means every second you will regenerate 1% of our max HP, which is 6 health points if you have 600 health. That used to be the case before the spring update, but now, the vital pendant provides plus 4 HP regen, which means that no matter how much total HP you have, having it equipped will always regenerate 4 health points every second. This change happened mostly because Romo set used to be way too broken, like seriously the full set used to heal 50 HP every second, and that was already after a nerf. That was definitely the most controversial balance change in this update. But it was a time people were getting too overpowered and most enemies were trivial to fight, so in hindsight, those balances made a lot of sense to provide a bigger challenge for players in the newly added area. Another somewhat necessary change was making it so whenever you try to stand on a monster's head or back, it will try to throw you off. The only downside about this nerf is the fact you can't stand on top of birds and fly along with them anymore. Please remove this feature from them. I miss it. Okay, let's take a break from all those balance changes. Back to Matumada. This island is mostly known for all the crazy rare items you can find there. There are plenty of them. And they're the reason this place is known amongst FF fans as Hell itself. A place that consumes the souls of those who set foot on it. If you want to know more about these items, you should check the video I made about the rarest items in Fantastic Frontier. But I'll take this part to talk a bit more about the monsters, since I just mentioned their existence, but they're quite interesting. Pirates and Redmen are mostly easy to kill if they come along. They're just very tanky, and if you happen to be hit, it deals quite a lot of damage. And they don't have particularly interesting drops aside from the pirate hook, so for most of the time you want to avoid them. Maroon Ants are devilish creatures. They spawn a lot on the big tree at Upper Island, making it a dangerous place to AFK. They have this punch plus blast attack combo that deals a lot of damage and can kill you even if you have the best armor sets. Probably the biggest threat you'll face on ground. And to make things worse, it has one of the worst loot tables ever. The first night is a bit annoying, because it has a lot of HP and it's the only mob that can heal itself. Trying to melee this guy can be frustrating, so most of the time you have to try and get it stuck somewhere so it won't be able to heal itself while you kill it. Aside from that, it has a cool design and some interesting drops. You mostly want to get his guaranteed drop 15 times, to trade for an Eye of Recording Ultra Dagger. Plasma Ghosts are in my opinion the biggest threat in Matumada. I don't play melee, but I've heard from melee players that this is the hardest monster to fight without magic or ranged weapons. A good reason is that they always spawn in a group of 2, so it's double the trouble. Also their attacks have unfair hitboxes sometimes and they do quite a lot of damage. His loot table is not that attractive, but good luck if you wanna get the Plasma Ghost mask. Cosmic Ghost is somewhat the boss of Matumada. It has only 2 spawns on the island, one on top of the big tree and one on the open field. The concept is cool, but there are some things me and other players dislike about it. First, as goofy as it sounds, if you just happen to get underneath it, it won't be able to do shit against you, and it's a free kill if no other monsters appear in the meantime. Then there is the fact that for some reason it sometimes just casually decides to despawn. I have no clue how this works and why it happens, but then that is frustrating. And of course, how could I forget about the Cosmic Ghost mask? for your own sanity, I recommend you never trying to get it. Last thing that deserves a mention on this island is the Radiant Stone. This thing got the community very intrigued when the update came out. It's just an orange cube that glows, emits some weird sound and does damage to you the closer you get to it. It took like 3 days of players wondering if this thing had actually any function until someone decided to take damage for as long as they could, and sure enough, they got something. Which, thinking about it, was very likely a gold ore, so they probably got disappointed and moved on from it. But someone was lucky enough to get a Radiant Medallion, which in fact is the only interesting thing you can get from this test of resistance. I know it's only supposed to provide items that are related to glow or whatever, but it's undoubtedly an underwhelming loot table. I'm hoping there are more items of that kind coming in the next update. And that's it for Matumada. My last special mention will be to the Boathouse, which is the house you need to buy to access the island. To me, it's one of the greatest ambients in the game. It really is one of those places in video games that make you wanna stay there. It feels so cozy and has a lovely background music. This was probably one of the last things Gorba did that is currently in the game. Seeing how amazing it is, I can only imagine all the crazy new places we'll see in Fantastic Frontier. Especially considering how much he must have improved his building abilities over the years. Sorry, I know this is a video about the updates we got in the past, but in the current state, not talking about the upcoming update is impossible. It's a big part of Fantastic Frontier's future, and discussions about it have been happening for over 4 years. Yeah, remember that I mentioned in the beginning that from the release of FF to the last update it took 640 days? From the last update to the day this video is being released, it took 1769 days, which is close to 3 times the amount it took for the game to get in the state it's currently in after the original release. I could talk about the teasers, pick of the week, and the tons of events that marked those years, but my goal of this video was mostly to have a throwback to old times, so the OG players refresh their memories of those times, and new players get to know more about all the updates we had, as playing on a new update is something a good chunk of the community never experienced. If you want to know more about the current state of the waiting, you can check my videos talking about the teasers and death posts, or of course, check them out on Spectra and Gorba's Twitter accounts. And that's it for this video. Oof, it has been a long journey. I know I promised it to come around January, but I underestimated the amount of research I would have to do for this video, and also I wanted to enjoy my summer holidays as much as I could. At least now I have 1 week to enjoy without worrying about getting this video out. Moments like these make me understand how the devs feel about the delay. Of course, to a smaller scale. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed. That's very helpful for smaller creators like me. See you in my next video, whenever it comes. Bye!